play a major role as well. 17 turns for the drivers to negotiate, and this is going to be a trip into the unknown. Let's zoom in to the tyres, the soft, the medium and the hard. The C5 is no one's friend until maybe you get to the end of the race. It's all about the C4 and the C3, the medium and the hard. Max Verstappen has 2 sets of the medium tyre, the new medium tyre, available to him. And we take you now to pictures of one of the more famous streets anywhere on Earth, the Strip, and here is the starting grid. Yuki Tsunoda struggling for consistency. Lance Stroll has a penalty of 5 places for overtaking under yellow flags in practice. Then it's Oscar Piastri in 18th, then Zhou Guanyu in next to him on the grid. Then we have Esteban Ocon, who finds himself in 16th. He's next to Lando Norris. And then we have Daniel Ricciardo 14th. He's the man who wanted to race here in Vegas the most, next to Nico Hülkenberg. Carlos Sainz with one of the more unfair penalties you will ever see in Formula 1, from the front row down to 12th. And then it's Sergio Perez, who's battling Lewis Hamilton for second in the Drivers' Championship, but they both went out in the second part of qualifying. Then we have Fernando Alonso. Kevin Magnussen is 8th. It's a best start of the season for Valtteri Bottas in 7th. It's a best start ever in Formula 1 for Logan Sargent. He's next to his teammate on an all-Williams 3rd row. Pierre Gasly's best start of 2023 puts him in 4th position. George Russell aiming for a return to the podium. He's only had 1 this year. Max Verstappen on the front row for the 15th time this season. And Charles Leclerc with career pole position number 23. It's his 5th pole of the year, but the stat that no driver wants to hear is the one that he's failed to convert the last 11 times he sat in that position. Pole position. This is his best chance of the season if you speak to those in the know in the paddock. You're in the right place for the next 2 hours. It is a special night for Formula 1. Wherever in the world you're watching, we're with you live throughout tonight's landmark race. In the commentary box, I'm Alex Jakes, and I have a couple of drivers ready to guide you through what could be a wild, wild night. Hello everyone, welcome to the commentary box. I have David Coulthard and James Hinchcliffe alongside me. Gentlemen, we're looking fairly good. It's a big night. We're ready, we're suited, we're booted, and we're looking forward to what could be a wild Grand Prix.
I can't wait. You know, I'm buying into all this hype. This is Las Vegas. It is a very important Grand Prix, of course, for the city and for Formula 1 as a whole, but it's an important Grand Prix for Charles Leclerc and many other drivers that have managed to pop themselves into the top 10. Logan Sargent, this could be the moment that secures his future in Formula 1, and with a green circuit and of course that right side of the grid as we look at it right now being basically dirty and dusty, we could see a very mixed run to the first corner.
Yeah, it's been the topic of the whole weekend is the unknowns. You know, there was the unknowns of the first practice session, there was the unknowns of qualifying, and it's going to be the unknowns again in the race. Very mixed up grid. Only 2 teams with both cars into Q3. It's going to be fun to watch.
Yeah, Ferrari have they did that at the front, and Williams as well. So good evening and welcome to the #1 story in sport at this hour. We have the green light in Vegas. We leave the grid, and you can see it's a curved grid for those who find themselves at the lower places. And those on the lower places, Zhou, Piastri, have the hard tyres on. Stroll and Tsunoda, they have the soft tyres on. Lewis Hamilton, the only one in the top 16 who's gone for that hard compound of tyre and a longer first stint. Most drivers, as we suspected, have gone for the medium tyre off the line, David, to get that best possible launch.
Yeah, that's a reflection of the fact that he finds himself in 10th place. He's not bargaining on being able to make a lot of places, and that very short run to the first corner, and he's just going to try and give himself options. The big question is, for those on the mediums, do they get graining? If they start to grain, then that may force them into the 2-stop, and Lewis is hoping that he's now cementing himself into a 1-stop scenario.
Okay, we have a very, very quick pace for Charles Leclerc out front, who makes his way out of turn 9. And we have Stroll, who's just gone round the first corner. So they have the second longest track of the entire year at 3.8 miles. But that, if you keep going at that pace, Charles Leclerc, it's going to leave him on the front of the field for a really long time, Hinch.
It's a double-edged sword. He wants to be going a little bit quickly because they're trying to get some heat in these tires. They want to generate a bit of load and get some heat in the tires. But conversely, if you go too fast, you get too far ahead of that final row, you are sat there on the grid not getting any heat in your tires at all, just letting the heat bleed right off. So it's a careful balance right now for those drivers on the front row to get that heat, but not make too much gap between themselves and Yuki Tsunoda at the back.
I love that graphic. Previous wins, Las Vegas, Jones and Michele Alboreto winning the last time that we raced here in a car park, DC.
Yeah, the romantic historian in you pushing through, but in the here and now, I'm really excited about this one, because is this the race where the Ferrari can make the tyres work? And, you know, okay, not at all the same circuit that we saw in Singapore where Carlos got the victory. Very different layout, different temperatures, but I just feel that Charles needs a victory.
Yes, and I think that's fair, because at the centre of the spectacle is the penultimate round of the Formula One World Championship in 2023. But as you say, DC, it is a childhood rivalry at the front of the field, except is it a rivalry? Because this year it's been Max, Max, and Max again. It's been relentless. These two have a great, healthy respect. There was a great conversation between the two of them on Thursday where they said, oh, there are just great memories. Memories that you didn't like at the time, that they now look back on fondly. And they have a healthy respect. Will that be the case by the time that we get to the exit of turn 2? It's only 175 meters down to the first turn. And take a look at the track conditions as well, and the tire marks through the cement dust laid down for oil on the track after the driver's parade.
Interesting how late Verstappen pulled himself into his box. He doesn't want to pick up dirt and dust. Question is, did he get himself lined up as well as he might with the previous rubber he did from the standing start?
The strip is ours tonight. One of the more famous miles in the world belongs to Formula One. There will be 50 laps for the drivers to negotiate around this 3.8-mile circuit, 17 turns ahead. The grid is curved around that 17th turn. The bright lights of Vegas are shining. Pierre Gasly looking for his second podium of the season from his best start of the campaign. That's his old teammate, Yuki Tsunoda, in the AlphaTauri, lining up in 20th place. On board with Max Verstappen. It is showtime! Our Saturday night fight is 5 lights away! And Formula One goes racing on the streets of Las Vegas with Charles Leclerc cutting across Max Verstappen, who is on the dirty side. The top two go off the road. Do they open the door for George Russell? Massive spin in the middle of the pack as well. Max Verstappen takes the lead in the opening 200 metres of the Grand Prix, but he was deep into the first turn as he did so. Cars absolutely everywhere. Russell is in third, Gasly is in fourth, Kevin Magnussen has improved a couple of positions as we have the yellow flag out in sector 1. Sainz is at the back, Bottas and Alonso were involved in that as well as they scrub off the speed down turn 5, and despite a chance to try and fight back, TC, it's Charles Leclerc in second and Max Verstappen leads.
Yeah, that was a very surprising getaway in my mind from Max. What a brilliant start from the dirty side of the grid, and well, typically aggressive Max on the run into the corner. And well, look, it's all fair when you're piling in to a tight turn like that. I didn't actually have my eyes on what was the catalyst for the contact or the spin in the middle of the pack, so we'll wait for the replay.
We did have Alonso and Bottas fairly close to each other on the grid. We had Alonso in 9th, Bottas in 7th, and they have tumbled to the back of the field. They are still in the race, but Fernando Alonso, the most experienced Formula One driver ever, reporting that he's got damage. Logan Sargent lost the place to Kevin Magnussen, but the straight line speed of that Williams is absolutely phenomenal. Alex Albon's 5th, and now by the time we get to the braking zone, Logan Sargent retakes 6th place on a massive day for the American driver, who's in his 3rd home race of the year.
Yeah, it's a great sign early on for the Williams cars. Incredible straight line speed, no DRS. As we see the virtual safety car come out, we're not seeing any cars stop. There may be some debris down in the first turn from that melee involving Valtteri and Fernando.
Would expect, so the virtual safety car is out on lap 2 of 50. I would expect Ferrari to be saying he was off the road. This is interesting. In comes Sergio Perez, and he's gonna go for an offset strategy.
Max, I think we're happy you were ahead when you went off track. So happy to stay there.
Oh, of course I was ahead.
Well, we're going to look at that again in a few moments. Nose change for Sergio Perez. Perez, who started 11th, he was directly behind Fernando Alonso, who's directly behind Valtteri Bottas. So did they all meet in the middle when they came down there? Alonso's in as well, so is Bottas.
You want to talk about tire temperature and tire grip as we see the work being done to Fernando Alonso's Aston Martin. Look at the two cars that started on those soft tires. Lance Stroll up 10 places, Yuki Tsunoda up 9. An incredible first lap for both those drivers, starting from the back on the softs. Tremendous amount of track position.
So here we go to the race start. Look at the launch from the P2 man, Max Verstappen off the line, and then he's going to dive to the inside. They both go off. I thought George Russell might have an opportunity, and there you go. Fernando Alonso in the mix there, spun round after contact, it looked like, or near contact with the Williams.
Yeah, there was a decent enough getaway initially from Charles Leclerc, but he glances in the mirror, realizes he has to go defensive, and he's at the mercy of the line that Max takes.
This needs to be addressed now. It is a joke if he keeps the position. He wasn't in front at the apex and he pushed me wide. So he needs to give that position back.
I completely agree with Leclerc there. I mean, I'm not saying Max intentionally drove him clean off the road. Maybe he was battling the grip. I mean, it's obviously very low grip here as we look on board with Logan Sargent. But to take both cars that far off track, there needs to be some sort of precedent set. Oh, there you go. Fernando Alonso way down the inside, all by himself, just loses the back of the car.
Logan Sargent lucky to keep the front wing attached there in that moment. We are back to green flag racing. Charles Leclerc will not be pleased with that. Race control will be reviewing things. Make no mistake about that at all. But were they both off the road as a result of Verstappen diving to the inside? Remember, tyres were cold, temperatures are low anyway. The air temperature is 18 degrees. But was he forced off the road at the first turn to take the lead?
Well, the truth is we'll never know. I have to say I agree with Henshin as much that Charles was at the mercy of the line that Max was taking. The question is, do they take the view, first lap, first corner, and they tend to, on many occasions, just let them race and see what happens, and I suspect that will be the case here.
Yeah, I'm with you. I don't think that there will be anything done there, but that's a tough one, because you can argue if Max just overshot the corner, he's not in control of the car, and you know he made the mistake, so to speak, and Charles was forced off as a result. Regardless, he's got the lead now. He's broke free of the 1 second gap to keep Charles outside of DRS, as we see it is now enabled, and he is off into the distance.
The stewards are looking at lap 1, turn 1. It's under investigation as a result. And oh, who's gone off the road in the background there? It looked like someone has hit the barrier.
Lando Norris, I think. It's the McLaren.
And Lando Norris goes off the road at turn 12. Norris into the barriers. The safety car, the full safety car is out. And we have had a dramatic start to the Las Vegas Grand Prix. Lando Norris deep into the runoff area there. And that is a part of the racetrack where you are hugely committed through the turns of Sands Avenue. That's the most important thing by far, that Lando Norris is okay. It has been a weekend to forget for him, but we've had reduced running as a result, but this is very, very interesting. That is an enormous distance he has made to even find the Tech Pro, and you've got the Pirelli rubber off the car. The most important thing, Lando Norris has radioed to say that he is all right. Good news if you're Lance Stroll and Yuki Tsunoda. Opportunity now to get rid of those soft tyres that gave them a great launch, but just will not last.
Yeah, you can see he's getting out of the car as Aston. Look at the brake dust already in this early phase of the race. You know, car's heavy with fuel. And then we have Sainz as well. The flurry of activity as he goes for the hard tyres.
Nice quick stop there from the Ferrari team, 2.2 seconds over 3.6 for Stroll and the Aston Martin squad. This is a rough break for Perez, and who else came in under that initial VSC? There's another driver that came in
the VSC earlier on. We saw Bottas in, Alonso in as well, caught up in that. There is Lando Norris getting out of the car, and it has been a weekend to forget for the British driver, who has been sensational in the second part of the season. But how did his Las Vegas Grand Prix come to a close? We're going to find out now, and that is a strange one.
Looks like, unless there's been an issue with the car, it looks like he's lost it with combined lateral braking. Just misses the back of his teammate as he makes his way to the Tech Pro barrier there. So, you know, good thing with a long crash is the energy is dissipated. Yeah, look, I think he touched. I think we could hear some touching of the ground. and he's unloaded the car, and he's got in this sort of tank slapper situation. I don't know if you you agree, Hinch, or not, but difficult to say if there was any sort of failure on the car.
You know, for sure, you hear it, you hear the floor. Let's ride on board with Hamilton now, who's got a front row seat to it. It does just sort of look like he bottoms out.
Norris, come off. His debris came off, hit my front wing.
Okay, copy. We'll have a look.
Yeah, quite a big debris field there for sure. You've got cold tire pressure still, full fuel. It's probably the first time these cars have run around with full fuel, so you're not entirely sure if you've nailed the ride heights. Again, the temperatures and the tires not up to where they need to be, up to targets. It's an easy thing to happen under a loaded corner like that. Little touch of the floor releases some of the pressure on the tires, and off you go.
Minor point to make about the incredible layout that we've got there. There are plenty of fans just riding the escalators constantly to get a view over the barriers, and if you were riding the escalator at that point, you saw the McLaren spin in to view dramatically out. So what a start to the race.
So Charles, the case is with the stewards, and we stay where we are in terms of positioning, okay? At the moment it's like this. If anything changes, I will let you know.
The safety car is out. It is lap 4 of 50 at the Las Vegas Grand Prix. Max Verstappen holds the lead. The stewards are reviewing whether he gets to keep it by the time that we get to the restart. Ferrari will be arguing. They will be hammering the point home at this stage because they'll want the swap before we go back racing. That is within the stewards' purview. Let's go back to the race start. All 5 lights out then. And even though he was on the dirty side of the grid, just a better launch off the line for the world champion.
Yeah, he hooked it up, and I think the crucial thing will be whether the stewards take a view, and I think the driver steward here is Derek Warwick, someone who actually raced at the last time we were in the Vegas Grand Prix. The view will be, would it be less bad if Max had a little bit of under rotation in a lockup, and therefore, you know, would suggest that he was doing what Fernando did, just carry too much speed. It's really tricky, isn't it?
We can just see the contact there, and in the background, I'm sure we covered it off dropping to the back of the field initially, but Carlos Sainz, another driver to spin there as a result, as we go on board with Valtteri Bottas. This was his best start of the year, but he only really made use of it into turn 1.
Yeah, a little wiggle there, and he's just wrong place, wrong time. Does get tagged in the back as well, and then ends up at the front of Lando as well.
Sergio Perez. So they're fighting for space, but no idea of grip levels at this stage, and that is why he needed the nose change.
Yeah, it makes sense. Again, nothing he could really do. Car's checked up in front, and Perez just had to sort of center punch the Alfa Romeo, trying not to damage the wing too much. Let's see what happens to Carlos. You're going through all that oil dry.
Oh, he tags Lewis.
Yeah, he just went in too deep. They've been caught out by this relatively short run to the first corner, and because of the length of the turn as well, you know, you're sort of combining your braking, putting a lateral load on the tire, and it's like, as we discussed, 100 kilograms on board, and it's like, ooh, it doesn't stop as much as I thought.
And I have to say, seeing replays of that many cars having issues into turn 1, it's got to help Max Verstappen's case with the stewards.
That is a good point, actually. It clearly was an issue for a number of drivers.
It's a big call. It is absolutely. If you think of the first time that we raced at Jeddah, there were plenty of calls from the race director that day about swapping the order around and making adjustments. The precedent, it goes both ways. I can think back to Lewis Hamilton going deep in Fuji back in 2008, forcing another driver off the road that day on his way to his first world title, but he got a penalty for that. We had precedent with Sebastian Vettel and Jenson Button. Big chop in the Japanese Grand Prix a few years later. Button furious, but it was allowed to stand. And it's ebbed and flowed. It really is just entirely in the discretion of the stewards. And we do get different stewards for different races, so the precedent can change. It's not been hard and fast in Formula One history in the last 20 years.
You see the drivers weaving around, just confirming the fact that this is, in these cooler conditions, more difficult for them to maintain tyre temperature. And that's going to be the critical thing, actually. If you allow the tyres to drop too low, you're then more susceptible to getting graining. If you get the graining, then it just opens up a whole world of pain and can force you to have to make an earlier stop.
This was one of the concerns of all the teams and drivers beforehand. If they got a VSC or a full safety car, keeping that tire temperature in, especially the drivers that are now on the hard compound, just trying to keep that going.
The safety car will be in at the end of the 17 turns, and then it's all about preparing. And one thing we have seen throughout the entire weekend here in Las Vegas is that the Red Bull has been superb at firing up that front axle and the tyres. So Max Verstappen has been mighty in the first sector of this racetrack all the way through the weekend, whether it be practice, whether it be qualifying, or whether it be the Grand Prix itself. Plenty of celebrities in every single garage here. The celebrity attendance document that they send out ran to 72 pages that we were sent at the start of the weekend. Did it feel like that on the grid, DC?
Yeah, it was definitely a celeb fest, and now I've just seen Kylie Minogue. All I've got in my mind is whatever. I can't sing the words, but it's a catchy little number.
We're getting closer and closer to full-blown DC karaoke before the end of the year.
Just info at this stage, Max. The situation at turn 1 on lap 1 is with the stewards. We are not going to reverse on positions, so I'll leave it with you.
So not reversing on positions, that then throws the decision for the stewards to potentially apply a penalty if they decide that there would be no swap. You could get an instruction from the race director, but if they were going to go down that route, I feel they would have done it by now. So we're backed up, the track is now officially clear, and Red Bull have elected to keep track position. Sometimes the team, and they run it so that you give the place back and you negate any risk of a penalty, but they've decided to leave him out there, and he is the leader. Minor lock up there for Charles Leclerc.
Wow, he's almost into the gearbox of Max Verstappen. Now the big question is, how early will Max bolt? And it looks like he's gone already.
He's gone, and he's caught them napping a little bit. That lockup into 14 definitely hurt Charles' exit. And now no pressure from behind. Max Verstappen already with a massive 1.1 second gap into turn 1.
Restarts have been phenomenal. Here's a chance for Oscar Piastri, looking to make a move on the dirty, dusty part of the racetrack. Hard tyres versus soft. You should not be able to fire those hard tyres up in a way where you're able to get by, and yet the Australian driver was able to do so. Sole remaining McLaren, now up to 10th position.
Yeah, I wonder if maybe already the softs are starting to get some of that graining. They weren't sure how long they were going to last. Yuki decided to stay out as he's now in line there. We look maybe at Ricciardo trying to make a pass there. Carlos Sainz going by Fernando Alonso.
Yeah, up to 17th position. Both Spaniards spinning at the first turn. But Sainz, who was angry enough at the start of this weekend, thinks that 10th place penalty was unjust. Well, his recovery drive has gone from 12th on the grid. He's now 17th in the race as the drivers, for the first time in the Grand Prix now, begin to feel what's underneath them. We've got the slippery surface flag being flown in the background there. So the driver's being warned of that. That is in one part of the racetrack only from what we've seen in terms of the messages on race control. What a restart lap this is from Max Verstappen. His lead is 1.8 seconds.
A long way to go in this Grand Prix, but you know, it's fair to say that Max was less enamoured with all of the build-up and hype to this Grand Prix, and it definitely looks like he's going to rush on to get out of here.
Well, maybe it's he's been very outspoken, I think it's fair to say, across the entire weekend, and then he was told he'd be wearing an Elvis suit for overalls for Sunday. Would have paid good money to see his face when he was showing those. Pass being completed. It's getting very tight between Sergio Perez and Carlos Sainz, and Sainz has actually dropped down to 18th place now. Not the only overtaking on track. So there were two drivers on soft tyres. That's the grippiest tyre, but it expires first at the start of the Grand Prix. Now let's see if Hamilton can go around the outside. Would be a great move if he manages it. And he does so, up to 11th place. Those soft tyres not working on the AlphaTauri, and that is strong work. Max Verstappen is given the 5-second penalty for forcing another driver off the track. Historically, sometimes you get penalised, sometimes you get away with it. Today, Max Verstappen's penalised, but have Red Bull got it right by leaving him in the lead of the race? Can he now easily build the 5-second gap that he needs? He'll take that at the first stop.
Yeah, well, that remains to be seen, but it definitely throws another little bit of intrigue into this race. I wonder if any of the other incidents in turn 1 will be looked at.
It's a great point. I mean, is Fernando going to be, you know, he caused contact essentially, affected a few other cars' races. Again, it's turn 1 in a Grand Prix, so that one you're probably going to get away with, but The statistics certainly still look to be in Max's favor. He's not won a Grand Prix by less than 5 seconds so far this year, and he's won a fair few of them. So the only thing that can really undo it, you know, if in the dying laps we have a safety car.
Okay, Esteban Ocon. Oh, thought about going to the inside. They've made that DRS zone longer by 50 meters over the course of the weekend. It's like he hit a brick wall when he pulled out. Think back to Monza earlier this year. The Blue Alpines had a horrible time recovering energy there and getting to the end of the straight and being efficient. He didn't have the chance before. How much grip is there into turn one? Very nearly made contact with the man who's just set the fastest lap of the race. That was Max Verstappen, and that was in qualifying between these two. Looks quicker right now. Esteban Ocon on the podium in Monaco earlier this year, but can't fight away by Kevin Magnussen.
Was that an issue for McLaren or just a wider line? That was quite a difference in line as he was going through that turn. And I feel we haven't actually given enough wow factor to Lewis Hamilton going around the outside in turn 3. Something else took our attention, but wow, that was impressive.
Yeah, fully committed, and Yuki Tsunoda on that soft tyre, passed by Piastri, then Hülkenberg, and then Hamilton. But Hamilton in a really unconventional part of the racetrack as he gets through. And Albon's still in 5th. Logan Sargent is the driver going through picture now in 6th position. Here's the race leader.
You have been given the 5-second penalty for that incident, but you're already 2 seconds ahead behind, so we'll just keep eking that gap out to the stop.
That's right. Send them my regards.
He's having a week of it. Here's Max Verstappen out front. So the 5-second penalty, which he will serve at the first stop, that's what they're looking for. Charles Leclerc, all of the effort now for Charles Leclerc going into trying to stay within undercut range, and he tried the inside before, now he's tried the outside line, taking the position away. Esteban Ocon up to 7th. He was out in Q1 yesterday, but a melee at turn 1 has changed his race around, and now you've got an Alpine in 7th and an Alpine in 4th.
And he did say that he thought there was enough pace in that car to get into Q3, so he's very disappointed to get held up in qualifying. As now Oscar Piastri is going to line up Magnussen and the Haas into 1. Oh,
and he's going on the side of caution. They know there's enough grip to make the pass, but he was very cautious there. Under traction, another sweep around the outside. Hamilton was at it before. Now Piastri's done it, and Magnussen street fighting. Well, he's trying to stay with the young rookie Australian driver, the man who scored a podium in his first ever Formula One Grand Prix, manages to fight his way back through, and Magnussen takes 8th position, battles all the way through the field at the moment on lap 10 of 50.
Yeah, well, that answers all our questions about how good will this circuit be for racing, and so far, so good. And great comeback there from Magnussen.
It's kind of reminiscent of the the Brazil setup where you can get that pass done into turn 1, but then the car you've just gotten by has the DRS into turn 4 and can attack back. So great move from Kevin Magnussen to get the position back, but Piastri definitely looks quicker at this point.
I've got to say, visually, this is looking great. It looks like the drivers will be fingertipping some of those very high-speed sweeping sections of the racetrack. You know, it kind of feels a little bit like I'm watching an oval race where you know it all looks good, and then suddenly you have a situation like Lando, loses control.
We'll wait to hear from the British driver. We'll try and bring you his thoughts down there. That is Oscar Piastri ahead of Kevin Magnussen. The fight's continuing all the way through. It looked like the AlphaTauris were close into the braking zone of 14 as well. We have noted that Pierre Gasly had a waft to try and get past George Russell. We'll see whether he can get by into turn 1. The answer is no at the moment. I think Daniel Ricciardo is the driver ahead. He's gone up to 13th place past his teammate, and Sergio Perez now moves past as well as Yuki Tsunoda comes into the pits.
Incredible pace out of the Alpines right now. I mean, Gasly hustling Russell in the Mercedes. We've seen Ocon make pass after pass. He's now cut the Williams by about a half a second in the last lap. But also look up front, guys. The gap to Leclerc from Verstappen has actually come down by about half a second, even more so as we see, there he goes, Sainz down the inside of Alonso. Once again, the Spaniard's going at it.
Action at the front, action at the back. There's 1.9 seconds for the lead of the Grand Prix. And Carlos Sainz facing up against his childhood hero, Fernando Alonso. These two would have been dreaming of fighting for a point at least today. Now, we caught the end of this. This is Piastri getting past Magnussen again.
Yeah, again, the battle of straight line speed. You see him looking in the mirror, then coming across to defend Lewis Hamilton. Got a view of the action ahead, and then picking up that slipstream. You can hear the acceleration increase, and then use an 8th gear. You've got to have a bit of a...
That was dangerous. He went and stopped again.
Okay, copy that.
Charles Leclerc and Max Verstappen getting on great after qualifying. I'm not sure they'll be getting on great after the Grand Prix. Our first Saturday Grand Prix since 1985. Fastest lap for Max Verstappen, being chased by a personal best for Charles Leclerc, who's got the gap down to 1.6 seconds. And Leclerc knows that this is a real day of decision. He's trying to claim his first victory since Austria 2022 today. And we're on lap 12 of 50. Verstappen, Leclerc, Russell, Gasly, Albon, Sargent, Ocon, Piastri, Hamilton, Magnussen, the drivers in the points. Vegas is putting on a show for Formula One. It is pass, repass and pass again, whether you are fighting at the front like Ocon, Piastri and Hamilton, or you're scrapping at the back after it all went wrong at the start of the Grand Prix, like Sainz, Alonso and Bottas. Gasly had a good couple of laps. Russell trying to respond. Last time around he was 0.3 of a second faster than the charging Frenchman, looking for his second podium of the season today.
I'm just trying to figure out, the cars visibly look racy, even at this early stage of the race with that amount of fuel on. Can we imagine how, as the fuel comes off, the cars are going to be reacting as we get Hamilton, replay of him getting the slipstream on the Haas and then having to battle it out on the brakes. Magnussen, as we know, is not one to give up easily.
Well, credit to the FIA for elongating that DRS zone, because it's left them to do it on the brakes. There's no slam dunk moves being completed down there. It is very much all about the slipstream, then how brave you're feeling on the brakes. Here's another move for you then, and this is going to be Sergio Perez improving up to 12th position. Another move completed down into turn 14, the end of that 1.2 mile straight when you haul on the anchors, and it looks like Carlos Sainz is going to try and line up Daniel Ricciardo here. Sainz, who missed out being fastest at the end of the qualifying hour by under 0.5 of a second.
We need action to cool the car. Where is to stop the car? Where is to stop the car?
So Sainz being told that he's risking the reliability of the car. I don't think he cares one iota about that. He's fighting to try and use the speed of that Ferrari, the Ferrari that's pushing Max Verstappen at the moment. And we go on board with him. He's saying, "Okay, I can get by. I can get some clear air." It was it's almost chill out by way of a response, wasn't it, on the radio?
You could almost hear it even as he was trying to make that pass happen. When he got to the brake zone, there was a little bit of lift and coast there. It's just so funny for everything that we heard about the worry of temperatures being too cold. We are a few degrees warmer than what we've seen for most of the sessions now, as Alonso all over the back of Daniel Ricciardo. But yeah, the teams have just gone overkill on the blanking, and now drivers are having to lift and coast to cool temperatures. But also shows how close you can run here. It's a great track for racing. They're able to follow close. They're able to race well.
Yeah, well, it's one of the things that we were wondering if it shake up the running order, because the cars can run more closed aerodynamically, then that can bring some cars into a performance window where obviously in the warm tracks you've got to open them up. And we've got the Aston there of Alonso getting that passed on, and Daniel Ricciardo.
Well, that was slam dunk, so that was different. Alonso was moaning about the straight line speed of his car yesterday. Well, it was pretty effective today, and he clears Daniel Ricciardo, who likes this part of the world but won't be liking the car underneath him at the moment. Lots of fastest laps being completed as we move through the order. Okay, we're also seeing lots of stops. Hulkenberg came in, he switched to the hard tyre, got rid of the mediums, and the fastest lap of the Grand Prix set by Sergio Perez, who the last time we got to the end of a qualifying hour, and it was Leclerc ahead of Sainz, the man who won the Grand Prix that day, Sergio Perez, who loves a street circuit. 5 of his 6 Grand Prix victories have come at temporary facilities. That is opportunistic. That is brilliant from Esteban Ocon, who hard charges his way by after the disappointment of qualifying. That was superb stuff, and we weren't expecting many overtakes there today.
Yeah, credit where it's due. He lined it up. He'd obviously been sniffing at the gearbox for a couple of laps and then realizing, well, we can see that in a couple of corners actually, that coming out of turn 1 and then the run through 3, there's a choice of lines there, and depending on just how much speed you barrel into the corner, we're seeing more of an offset in lines than we saw in qualifying, where they naturally just find, you know, the fastest single line through the corner.
You know, it's interesting, there's a good mix of hards and mediums on right now as the racing continues down the strip into turn 14.
And it's getting very, very, very tight, no matter where you look on track. Oscar Piastri has got up to 7th position, and then we'll go driver's eye view. Piastri trying to fight by. This is Lewis Hamilton trying to charge past Logan Sargent as well, and he does so. Further back, Sergio Perez is now up to 10th position. He has cleared the Haas, as we see Magnussen now bolting to the pits. The Haas running different specifications. Old and new split between the two drivers. Magnussen in the new, Hülkenberg in the old. And this is how Sergio Perez was able to fight his way by. This is over 200 miles per hour. Got the speed. Does he go to the left? Does he go to the right? Is the track wide enough? He gets past the Alpha, and then when the Haas pitted in, he got past Magnussen as well. Paris looking good right now. This is the battle for the lead of the Las Vegas Grand Prix, and it's inside a second.
It is indeed, and well, is this all that Max has, or is this him managing the tyre to enable him to make sure he can get to that one stop? And also, the next question is, where is the pit window for Charles to even consider an undercut if he's not thinking that he's able to effect a pass on track? And there's a lot of traffic out there. There isn't an obvious gap for him to fall into.
It almost makes you wonder if, with all the issues that drivers are having with temperature and the tires getting up to speed, if maybe the overcut is actually in play as well. You know, the heat you finally have in the tire from a stint will be a little bit quicker than the outlap with how cold it is. But it doesn't matter. He looks like he might get this done on track.
Yeah, I was going to say, I don't think that this is Max managing. This is Max under pressure. He will not be comfortable to have Leclerc within DRS zone.
George Russell said on the radio earlier on, I'm getting real trouble trying to manage these tyres and keep Gasly behind, and it's Russell who pits first to drop down to 8th position. That will go further back in the order. Big opportunity now for the lead of the Grand Prix though. Max Verstappen, when he got the lead at turn 1, must have thought that he could build up the gap, disappear out of sight like he has done so many times so far this year, and the crowd are roaring for these two. It got contentious down to turn number 1. There's a penalty heading the way of Max Verstappen. He will take that at the first stop, but he might not be the lead car when he gets there. Charles Leclerc, fed up of the stat that he started from pole position 11 times in a row and hasn't been able to convert it. That's the worst run in Formula One since the 1980s, and he's desperate to end that stat.
The tires are going to get really understand, Max.
Gianpiero Lambiase on the radio, a picture of calm. Max Verstappen with his mirrors full. 1.2 miles, flat to the floor, in the wheel tracks. He's been called to the pits. Charles Leclerc doesn't know that. He's going to try and pull the move now. The Scarlet Ferrari to the inside. Charles Leclerc takes the lead of the Las Vegas Grand Prix. It's game on at the front of the field like we haven't seen for so long in Formula One. And the crowd adoring that moment. Ferrari seemingly able to take their tyres further as Max Verstappen comes into the pits.
Yeah, and he's going to find himself coming out behind Logan Sargent if this is a normal stop, and, well, no.
There's the wait for the 5-second penalty.
Good point. This is actually then going to bring him out behind Daniel Ricciardo. As a few cars are now making their way to the pits.
Okay, Albon's in the pits as well, so is Piastri. It's a melee at turn 1 that started this race. It's action everywhere you look at the moment. McLaren looking all right with Oscar Piastri, who goes on to the hard tyres, but it's a slow stop.
Yeah, the front right wasn't there. So a little bit an uncharacteristic mistake, as we see Hamilton's radioed in saying he's got a puncture.
And this is the moment where he got it, diving down the inside of the Australian driver. Piastri trying to hang on to it. That enough to puncture the tyre, and sparks out the back of Piastri's car.
Looks like Piastri got the puncture as well.
Yeah.
That's why it was maybe a little bit slow getting that tire off, that right to the left front, I guess.
It's just so much action happening in this Grand Prix, it's difficult to follow it. And that does sound like Hamilton. Yeah,
he's lifting. Yeah.
He is really in a bad way here with this puncture.
That's Sainz going through, that's Joe going through as well, and Hamilton gets rid of the bollard.
Yeah, so what he's done is he's realized there's a bunch of traffic there. He's cut to the inside of the chicane, which he actually did at the same point when we saw Norris crash earlier, but on this occasion he's understeered into the bollard.
There's George Russell making his way through, having made his stop.
Car's not stopping.
Not what you want around a circuit where you build up to speeds of 200 miles per hour and you need to stop all the time. Okay, Charles Leclerc continues to lead. Esteban Ocon now up to second in the Grand Prix, having started 16th on the grid, as Hamilton will surely bear into the pit lane and does so. That is Pierre Gasly making his stop. So he was in a straight fight with George Russell. We'll watch our driver tracker to see where Gasly is able to emerge, and Russell has gone through. But Gasly does have the benefit of fresher tyres. The incident involving Piastri and Hamilton has been noted for causing a collision. Hamilton, slow stop at the back there, but he's back into the Grand Prix. Exasperated expression from the left hand, though.
Yeah, again, that was a little bit tardy from Mercedes. It almost looked as if they didn't get the signal that tells them that the wheel nut has been properly secured to the car, and the wheel guns had to go back on. And you can see where Hamilton chose to cut to the inside and hit that plastic bollard.
See it again on board.
It looks like he made the decision a little bit late to take the shortcut. I think it was a good idea, but yeah, just understeered a little bit with the tires not totally right.
Okay, back to trackside pictures. Esteban Ocon, Sergio Perez, second and third at the moment. Perez on that hard tyre, attacking now with DRS, and Perez taking the position away then. Found himself behind Ocon after that scrappy opening lap to the Grand Prix. Drivers taking and avoiding action, but Perez, in a sharp contrast to what we've seen for the rest of the year, able to get a tune out of those hard tyres. It's going nicely for the Mexican driver, who changed those tyres at the start of the Grand Prix, because he changed the nose, got rid of the mediums, went onto the hard, and that man's career is built on coaxing a performance from a tyre longer than others are able to do so. He's in exactly the sort of Grand Prix that he adores. Street race, tyre life preservation, that is very much up Sergio Perez's street.
Carlos Sainz is the other driver that is in a similar situation, and again, nobody really got a chance to run long on the hards. Many teams didn't even run the hard tires in practice, so we're not sure how long these things can last, but if they can make some magic happen, both of them have satisfied the tire requirements, and with the gap from Sainz to Leclerc right now, they would come out almost dead even.
Here's Zhou Guanyu, the car, the Alfa Romeo, in the way of George Russell, who ducks to the left, can't get by, ducks to the right, and now he's going to try and make the pass.
Yeah, Russell will be very much aware, one, all the time he spends behind traffic, bad for his cooling, and also he's got Max Verstappen in his mirrors. You can hear him having to roll out with the car heavy with fuel. They're having to roll out quite early as they go into the turn there, and well, it just means that the combined braking and lateral load, there just isn't enough grip there with the car still relatively heavy.
This is what a pass looks like at 200 miles per hour plus. Oh, over a bump that I don't think he's been over many times down there. Sometimes when you're making the move, you use parts of the racetrack that you wouldn't normally, and Russell able to fight his way by. Efficient passes are crucial because the world champion is on a charge behind him. And Zhou Guanyu staying out, elongating the stint as long as possible. He's now had 20 laps on those tyres, as well, he's on to lap 20 on those tyres, as we move through a really intriguing Las Vegas Grand Prix in the balance.
Yeah, Charles being able to stay out longer is just going to give him much more opportunity and much more flexibility on tyre life when he eventually does his stop. Max is going to get the pass done here. Or is he?
You thought about it. You saw him sort of roll out of the brake pedal after the initial hit there to get a little bit closer, as we see a very quick yellow in sector 2 there.
Yeah, someone deep over the curb, I would imagine. as it's Leclerc, then Perez, Ocon, Stroll, Sainz, Alonso, Russell, then Joe and Verstappen. And Verstappen looking to try and make the pass, but again, you're to a part of the racetrack that is dusty, that is dirty, that he hasn't been to all weekend long, and look at the speed that they have at this stage as they go by, and nicely done as he gets by and he moves up to 8th position. And so it is lap 20 of 50. Let's check in with our race leader and the moment he was able to reclaim the place that he lost in the first 175 meters of the Grand Prix.
I do love the titanium skids sparking as they go, and he would have had a face full of Red Bull sparks as he then pulled out and affected the pass. And well, unsurprisingly, his team loved that. The race fans love it, the Tifosi. And that's what I love about Formula One. They're probably related. One's got a Mercedes hat on, the other one's got a Ferrari.
So Ocon comes into the pits after one of his best stints of the entire season, you have to say. And Verstappen into 7th. And he goes up to 7th position now, 2.1 seconds away from George Russell. And those two fighting for position is going to be very, very interesting. Because if Russell can stay ahead of Verstappen, it helps this man even further. And Ferrari sometimes so hard on their tyres in the cooler conditions. Charles Leclerc desperate to just stop talking about qualifying and start talking about being the driver that gets the largest trophy at the end of the Grand Prix.
Hey man, he's pushing. There's no question. You saw how close he was to the wall on the exit of that turn. Through practice and qualifying, we've had a graphic telling us how many centimeters, and he knows he has to hustle in these tires and try and open up the gap as much as possible. This is the moment where he'll be hoping for world-class customer service and a 2-second pit stop.
It's interesting, the hards are holding on pretty well right now. You see Russell with the DRS open, trying to get Fernando Alonso defense from the Aston Martin driver. Can he do it on the outside? I don't think so. Gonna have another good run out of 14 here, but those hard tires, they're really hanging in there. The pace is very good when you're comparing against some of the similar medium runners.
Okay, Fernando Alonso keeping Russell behind for the moment. Charles Leclerc looking for a clean rejoin on the exit. Just want to keep it the right-hand side as we see still ahead the green Aston Martin ahead of the black Mercedes. Max Verstappen has the fastest lap of the Grand Prix. Do not count him out of this one at the moment. Different cars respond to different tyres, and going by and moving through. It's a 1:37.8 for Max Verstappen, the driver who has completely dominated the Formula One World Championship so far this season with 17 wins. That's an all-time record in the entire history of the World Championship, and he was many people's favourites today to extend that record, but it's his teammate, Sergio Perez, who finds himself in the race lead. Lance Stroll, who started on the soft tyre, had the benefit of the chaos at turn 1, used the moment when we had an intervention from the virtual safety car to get on the hard. He's in 2nd place, and it's our net race leader, Charles Leclerc, who is in 3rd. This looks like a tasty battle, doesn't it? As we head on to the strip, Alonso, Russell, and Max Verstappen chasing each other. Huge speeds now. Russell knows that he's got to try and make the place immediately, otherwise Verstappen will eat him for what time of day is it? Not quite breakfast, but you get the point as he goes by. We're 15 minutes to 11 local time, and the Mercedes has improved, but Verstappen is the worry for him.
Yeah, this race is delivering in terms of action. There's no question about that, and that's a massive relief to me personally as a race fan, and I'm sure to Las Vegas as well. The action has just been non-stop.
Now let's see if we get the other overtake that we were expecting, and we do so down to turn number 1. Max Verstappen moves up to 6th position, and he gets past Fernando Alonso. Oscar Piastri is the fastest driver on the racetrack at the moment. 6-lap-old, hard tyres. He's still got to stop for mediums by the end of the Grand Prix. But Piastri having a nice return to form after a difficult few races. The Australian rookie driver in the points at the moment. And he is 2.6 seconds away from Pierre Gasly. Gasly, who has switched to the hard tyre, doesn't have the same superb pace that he had on the medium, and that's the difference. Sometimes different cars speaking to different compounds. to go on board with the Mercedes. It's been a really tricky race for Lewis Hamilton so far. So it's George Russell, who is the second driver for Mercedes in the championship. He's a race winner last year in the Sao Paulo Grand Prix. He's only been on the podium on one occasion so far this season. Had a chance to fight for victory in Singapore, but it's Spain his only trip to the rostrum. And now he is in a straight fight up against Max Verstappen. Verstappen will know that Russell defends intently. We've seen it between these two earlier in the year in Baku, where in the sprint, Verstappen was millimetres from heading into the wall. He told George Russell just what he thought in Parc Fermé, one of the livelier exchanges that we've caught on camera throughout the year. We are ticking towards half distance, and we have Perez at the front of the field in a race that he really seems to favour. That is such a great twist into the pit straight we go there as Verstappen goes slightly wide, chasing the Mercedes. The compression in turn 17 makes it look so visually quick from the trackside cameras. This was Charles Leclerc looking for a quick stop, slightly slow for the race leader. We're on board in the left-hand side of your picture, so we're showing you that replay again as he continues, but better safe than sorry for the man in the net race lead.
Yeah, there seems to have been a few issues in securing wheel nuts, which it's not like it's massively colder than other Grand Prix, and with brake temperatures going above 1,000 degrees, then the wheel and nut is going to be pretty warm. But for whatever reason, they haven't had the slickest of pit stops. No one getting close to the world record of 1.8 seconds set by McLaren earlier this year.
Sainz, Russell, Verstappen, the order as we went in to the sweepers by the time that we get to turn 12 to send us on to the strip, officially Las Vegas Boulevard. It wasn't the pass that George Russell was looking for. He will get the slipstream, but there is going to be a huge hole in the air. Punch for Max Verstappen, who could yet make it a three-car battle in a few moments' time. But the Mercedes that has struggled for straight-line speed so often, now he gets by, so Russell up to fourth. Verstappen on the charge, though, and here comes that mega slipstream as to the inside goes the Red Bull. Russell takes the place for fourth. Sainz goes down to sixth. Verstappen elevated to fifth place. And there was a routine pass for Pierre Gasly on that lap as well. He's up to eighth position, clearing Zhou Guanyu, who is running that longest stint.
Well, I was almost going to ask the question, has Sainz been given the strategic instruction to just make it a bit more tricky for Max Verstappen? But in actual fact, looking at that, I think he's just in a phase where he's running out of pace and running out of tyres. He was, lost 2 places on one straight.
Ocon has the fastest lap of the Grand Prix. He is 1.7 seconds, make that 1.4 seconds away from Oscar Piastri, who finds himself in 10th. And Ocon will look to go on the charge again. He looks happy with that hard tyre. I wonder if he can bring it in a way that Gasly was very hesitant at the start of that stint. I wonder if they're thinking about bringing that hard tyre in slowly.
Well, I don't know you guys, but the body language of Max Verstappen's car does not say to me, I'm taking these tyres to the end of the Grand Prix.
You think he's just absolutely going for broke here? Oh, is he going to try it on the inside here? Into turn 12.
Oh, it's going to be contact, and it is contact. Max Verstappen into the side of George Russell. He was committed, and in turn 12, the two of them come together.
Right, is that damage only from George's car, or is some of that from the Red Bull?
It's tough to tell if there's wing damage to the Red Bull. Definitely floor damage to the Mercedes as they're...
And Charles Leclerc making the pass on Lance Stroll, just looking for efficient moves through the field. And Leclerc looking to leave all of the drama behind.
Should we predict the radio message from George Russell?
They've got history, they've got previous. We were referring to it earlier in the broadcast. And Lance Stroll in third. Now, after Charles Leclerc has made the place, and you can just see a little bit of wiggling around for Verstappen.
Reggie just sits in on me, check my tyre, front wing.
Tyre is okay for now, Max. Stay out for now. Tyre is okay.
Yeah, it's funny, you look at how slight the contact was between Piastri and Hamilton, both having issues after that. Much harder, much more damaging contact between Verstappen and Russell, but seemingly both continuing, no tire issues at least, but certainly that Mercedes will have lost a good amount of downforce, and this is just going to make for a long second half of the Grand Prix for George.
Yeah, just waiting for the replay to be able to play in, and on request, here it comes. So very brave of Max to pull it on that combined braking down the inside. And the question is, was there enough of the car alongside for George to clearly know? Not probably at that phase. And I'm not sure he was really aware that he was trying to get the pass done there. It looks like he's alongside, but not quite 100%.
If you look at George's helmet right before turn-in, yeah, there is a big chunk of Red Bull wing there, isn't there?
That looks like the wing end plate.
But if you look at George's helmet, he doesn't seem to be looking
Safety car. Safety car is out. Sorry, Hitch. Go on.
No, I say he didn't look to be looking at his mirror. You know, and that's not a typical pass zone. So maybe he really didn't know he was coming. But yeah, you can see there on the driver's right of the Red Bull front wing damage. Safety car out. So who takes it? Checo comes out in third place. There he is.
And so that is a massive benefit for the man who's put one of his best stints together of the entire season. And Sergio Perez gets a 2.4-second stop and is suddenly a contender.
Yeah, absolutely. He almost took his front jackman with him. He was so electric away from that pit stop, and that has actually played to his benefit very well. Max Verstappen has pitted. Did they do front wing as well? I don't think it looked like it was a long enough stop.
Okay. It's a 3.3-second stop for Stroll. Verstappen had a 2.7 stop. Russell, 2.9. Russell lost the wheel cover. Now, that safety car line is vitally important, and I think Max Verstappen got out ahead there of Esteban Ocon, and that's where they measure it when you rejoin after pitting under the safety car.
Yep, so for now, he isn't complaining of a big loss of front downforce. They could have turned a little bit of flap into the car if they've seen from the load sensors a massive amount of data being transferred from the car back to the pit wall. So if they've seen a drop-off on front load, they could have added some wing angle to compensate.
Hamilton, who had that earlier issue after contact with Oscar Piastri, and this is what happens at a street circuit. They either behave themselves because they're worried about chaos, or you get action for every minute of the Grand Prix. We have the latter today for you, the latest ever start time for a Formula One Grand Prix, our first Saturday race since the 80s. And we're going to have a breather in the commentary box for a few moments. The safety car is out. The field will bunch back together. Crucially, Charles Leclerc was able to get out ahead of Perez. Gasly having the benefit out there as well. Piastri is up 14 places in fourth place, and Verstappen has the opportunity to go back racing in the close proximity with Esteban Ocon.
And it looks all rosy for Oscar Piastri right now because he has done a stop, but crucially he hasn't changed tire compounds. He started on a used set of hards, he went to a new set of hards, so even though the track position has fallen his way, he has not satisfied the tire rule where you have to run at least one of two different compounds, and with the field bunched up, it's going to hurt when he eventually has to pit.
Yeah, that just doesn't feel right, given that they've had this opportunity, that they didn't then go for a change of compound.
So that is Carlos Sainz, who would have thought that his chance of points slipped away with a spin at the first turn. Look how close it was there on the exit as well, between the Red Bull and the Aston Martin. Eventually, Verstappen able to clear that position. And that is Fernando Alonso moving into his spot. That's what happens under the safety car. There's just a lot of cars in at once. This is Stroll, desperate to get back in to the Grand Prix. And there you go. There's another tight moment. That is the moment that you saw from the turn one camera. And the Red Bull. Oh, Max is so lucky he didn't go over the painted line.
Yeah, but that was crucial. The way he was drifting there got him out just in front of the Alpine at the safety car line. And he knew it was important, but right on the margin of dropping the car.
So committed, great car control for Max there to keep that place. Everything, and then this helps him, you know, that's closed the gap now. He'll only be a handful of seconds behind the leader versus the 20-some-odd he was before this happened. And to your point, DC, maybe he was going for a two-stopper anyway. He was using those tires quite hard. Max was tire rich coming into this race, the only driver that had two new sets of mediums, two new sets of hards to give them as many strategy options as possible as the corner workers there work to clean up all that debris down in turn 12.
They're missing a bollard. They've had debris down there. Early in the Grand Prix, Lando Norris was sparking by at a huge speed after his race came to a close. And despite all the action, contact, debris, and side-by-side moves that we've seen, Lando Norris is the only retirement from the Grand Prix so far. 19 still out there as we go past the 18,000-seater sphere that has been making headlines all around the world, and Charles Leclerc has a new Red Bull to fight on the restart. This time it's Sergio Perez who's looking to try and win his first Grand Prix since Baku earlier this season.
Psychologically, you're going to feel better about having Checo Perez in your mirrors than Max Verstappen.
That said, if you were paying attention to the lap times before this happened, you know, Checo was on much older hards, and he was matching, if not pacing. Whoa, a little bit of a moment there for Leclerc trying to get some heat in the tires.
Oh, I nearly lost it. The tires are cold.
Okay, copy.
That is worry etched all over the voice of his engineer.
There's it was being open with your team, and then there's just causing concern. You know, I think I would have maybe just sucked that one up and kept it to myself until after the race.
Let's be honest, they see it on the data.
Max, just a Stewart's update again. Turn 12 incident with Russell is under investigation.
Okay, it just looked like he just didn't see me at all. He just turned in onto my wheel. I guess he didn't expect me to pass him there.
And fair enough, because I don't think anyone's done that so far. Yeah, we're going back green.
There's a penalty for Russell for causing a collision is the verdict of the stewards. So Max Verstappen penalised earlier in the Grand Prix. It's George Russell who's got the 5-second penalty for causing the collision. The incident at turn 12, there's confirmation of the penalty at the top of your page. Meanwhile, the safety car has disappeared. They're trying to generate tyre temperature, and we're back to racing speeds around Formula One's newest venue that is providing so much by way of entertainment. And Pierre Gasly worried Sergio Perez into a defensive shape. That's Fernando Alonso to the inside of Logan Sargent, and he's making 11th place with that move. But the rear of the car very nearly getting away from him when he applied the power. Another move around the outside. We've got the Haas trying to go past Daniel Ricciardo, and that is a sweet pass once again for Nico Hülkenberg. Late on the brakes, and later still for Oscar Piastri, who makes the corner, who makes the place, and takes third.
That was brilliant. That was absolutely brilliant. He's taken advantage of this very difficult restart to see cars weaving under race conditions, desperately trying to get temperature in their tires. It's just so unusual.
And that wiggle from the Alpine there, you see how much time you lose when you get a big snap on power there. And Hamilton reporting that the wind has picked up. It was a tailwind into turn 1 when we were down on the grid, DC. That's going to make that turn 1 braking zone so much more difficult. Verstappen here just trying to line up the Alpine of Gasly. But remember, Piastri, if I'm Alpine, I'm telling Pierre, don't worry about him. You're not, he still has to stop. You're not really racing him, as Checo now trying to line up the Ferrari of Charles Leclerc.
Charles Leclerc, Pierre Gasly, good friends off the racetrack, and they'll be even better friends after that moment, because instead of trying to attack, we had a moment where Perez was trying to defend from the Alpine on turn 1. The pit lane incident involving Max Verstappen has been noted for an unsafe release. We'll get you another look at that before we get the steward's verdict. And there's no further investigation, so that has been checked and that has been ticked as we move on by. Perez with a good restart lap, you have to say, considering he was defending into turn 1. It's only 0.6 of a second.
But Esteban Ocon set the fastest lap of the Grand Prix on that lap. Alpine with some serious pace in this race. Not necessarily expected before we got here, but it's been very impressive so far. Even Max Verstappen unable to get around Gasly.
Well, we're seeing the drivers take different lines. We're seeing the drivers try bold moves, certainly into turn 5. And Piastri, who started down the field in 18th position, finds himself in 3rd. Gasly will be so disappointed that he had a chance to go for 2nd. Couldn't really shape for any major move. And then the concertina effect of being pushed back meant that he's now trying to defend. That's the battle for the lead. The Papaya McLaren is in the way, and I tell you what, Max Verstappen's going to be very close to trying to repeat his trick. The more traditional overtaking opportunity right in front of him. On the exit of turn 12, you go to the strip. That's Sergio Perez, who's had such a tough season, despite being one of only 3 different winners so far this year in the Grand Prix, can see an opportunity. The man in the lead in the Scarlet Ferrari has 5 Grand Prix victories. The man chasing him has 6. And all the while, if they fight each other too hard, the man who has absolutely dominated all the way through the season with 17 wins this year alone will be coming together.
And you got to think, you know, this is Checo's bread and butter right here. Straight circuits, Verstappen's behind him. The baton's been passed, the pressure is on him to get it done, and he is delivering. He is putting a lot of pressure on Charles Leclerc right now.
Massive lap in the destiny for who gets the winner's trophy today. DRS has been enabled. It is worth a lot around this track, and Sergio Perez is only 0.4 of a second away.
Yeah, it's like he's sniffing the opportunity. And yeah, this is interesting, isn't it? Off the back of that cold tire restart, Charles Leclerc all of a sudden looking a little bit on the ropes.
Further back, Lewis Hamilton has made a place. He's gone up to 15th. He cleared Hulkenberg, who had that great move around the outside of Ricciardo in the restart lap earlier on. This is really defining stuff for Charles Leclerc. We're obviously on board with the battle gap for the two cars out front, both desperate to take advantage of a dramatic day. Oh, they're getting close to the exit of turn 12 there, but of course they're pushing on. And if these two fight each other too hard, Oscar Piastri, a race winner in the sprint format earlier this year, could join the party. You know Verstappen's going to be in the mix as well, but Gasly, half defence into turn number 5, can't afford too many of those as he tries to cling on. That is close under braking. This is a resurgent Sergio Perez, but he's right on the edge.
Yeah, a little bit of oversteer as he rolled the car into the corner. He knows that maybe he won't have too many opportunities to run this close before he gets the call on cooling.
And it looks like Max Verstappen has cleared Pierre Gasly for 4th place. Gasly's been told he's got to manage that tyre. The early data does not look good. This is the view from the grandstand of the battle for the lead. It was a totally different race. Charles Leclerc looked absolutely terrific on the medium tyre. We've gone to the hard, and suddenly the race has been transformed once again. Sergio Perez has the DRS, and he knows from studying the behaviour of that Ferrari, he's got a great chance to be our 3rd race leader tonight.
Yeah, well, you mentioned it earlier, different compounds, they talk to the car and driver in different ways, and it can be just, you know, dependent on where we are and rubbering into the circuit. It can be with the amount of fuel that's on board. And right now, it looks like Charles Leclerc has put a pair of high heels on, and he's sort of struggling to get the stability.
Where the Red Bull looks so strong, and we saw it from Max's on board, and we just saw it outside from the back of Charles Leclerc looking back at Checo. Those combined entries into turn 7, into turn 12, where you're braking and turning at the same time, the confidence that both Checo and Max have, they're really closing up on the car in front in both scenarios there. Massive amount of lap time, and both of those lead on to important parts of the racetrack as DRS is open again.
This is the best run so far for Sergio Perez. Sergio Perez to the apex first. Sergio Perez to the lead of the Grand Prix. Having started in 11th, he had the run, he had the DRS, and the fans in the grandstand love another pass because we've got our 3rd race leader tonight, and his name is Checo. Wow, what a turnaround. We are seeing some show under the lights in Las Vegas.
It's been such an ebb and flow. The race started advantage Red Bull. Then Charles was able to reel Max in, advantage Ferrari. Now it's gone back the other way. Advantage back to Red Bull. Incredible move from Perez here.
Yeah, this is what we remember of Perez at the beginning of the year. He's at his brilliant best. And right now, can anyone stop him? Potentially, Max, if he can continue to show the pace he's just done, the fastest lap of the Grand Prix.
Charles Leclerc's heart will sink at that moment. What a great stint he had, but it's a street circuit. The chance of intervention from the safety car is always high. That's what we've seen. And last time around, Piastri was quicker than the Ferrari ahead. We have seen time and time again certain temperature windows. Think back to the Mexican Grand Prix a couple of weeks ago where it looked like one team was going to dominate, then there was a slight change in temperature and it was a totally different story. Then you switch to another tyre, it's a different story again. The pendulum swings back to Red Bull. Charles Leclerc doing everything in his power to stay within the DRS. That is his only hope of getting back against Sergio Perez. Max Verstappen getting past, or at least trying to, under braking. Oscar Piastri not fighting that one too hard, and Verstappen on the charge up to 3rd.
Oscar did a good job on the initial brake hit. He outbroke Verstappen initially, but then Max just rolling off that brake pedal as the Alpines now nose to tail. Ocon trying to get around Gasly. Is he going to take a stab into turn 1?
These two are side by side, but not for much longer. The two teammates battling it out, and Esteban Ocon deep into turn one. Gasly sweeps on by. Great racing between these two. Nervy moments on the pit wall for Alpine. These two have history this season, back in Australia, where they collided after a great run.
Okay, Esteban, we want to hold position for the moment. Please hold position for the moment. Think about tyre management.
Get me a replay of that move around the outside. Esteban Ocon going all in Vegas and taking 5th place.
This is absolutely brilliant, brilliant racing. And I guess not only in the pit wall would they be a bit nervy, they've got their celebrity investors here and, well, some good wheel-to-wheel action, but we were all sort of holding our breath there to know if they could do it without touching.
Waiting for the impact, and it just did not turn up. Leclerc still on the cusp of DRS. He not only needs it to stay with Perez, he needs it to defend from the man who he took the lead from a couple of laps ago. Okay, let's see, down into the braking zone. Oh, what a fantastic Grand Prix we're having. And make no mistake, we don't have to say that. We are watching one of the best Grand Prix of the season. Not because of where we are, because we're watching 20 of the best drivers in the world pass, and we don't always get this, repass. We wanted the replay, here it is. Pierre Gasly, oh, I tell you what, Gasly played the team game there. If that had been a different liveried car, I think that would have been a different braking zone entirely.
But hadn't we just heard the order from Ocon to stay in line and keep position, take care of tires, and a few corners later he's through?
Yeah, but occasionally drivers get radio problems and you don't quite hear the transmission.
Street circuits are real tough for that, DC. All the buildings in the way, the radio signal's not so great sometimes.
It's James Hinchcliffe, it's David Coulthard, who the billboards around this place proclaim as an F1 legend, no less, telling us the dark arts of racing behind the wheel.
And leg end, more like.
Well, we said that Charles Leclerc needed a big couple of corners. He has summoned up everything he's got. Make no mistake, right now, Perez looking to change the narrative, having had such a tough campaign after those brilliant 2 wins at the very start of the season, but since then the championship has belonged to Max Verstappen. Charles Leclerc wanting to win his first Grand Prix since July 2022, and Max Verstappen looking to demoralise those ahead even further.
Yeah, you just saw the car stepping out of Max Verstappen as he entered onto the strip, so he is pushing hard on those tyres, and Charles Leclerc
going to the inside. I was going to say, if he's going to take a risk, there's a chance. So I think Perez might have been caught by surprise. Another change of lead in Las Vegas, and it's Charles Leclerc back again, but he seemed to come from miles back.
Yeah, what did Perez miss a gear or something? You know, where did that come from?
Yeah, we have to try to see that one again as well, because, well, I was surprised to see him pull out and go for it, but man, that was such a lunge as Verstappen sets another fastest lap in pursuit of this duo battling in front of him. This is a 3-horse race as we come with under 15 laps to go.
How is that possible? How is that possible? We've seen so much. And Perez, was he surprised like George Russell was a few laps ago? Here's a chance to review it. Charles Leclerc diving to the inside, retaking the lead of the Grand Prix.
Good job.
Underlined that a couple of times.
I wasn't even sure he was within DRS range anymore coming onto the straightaway, but man, did he really commit to that. And heads up from Checo to do that quick last check of the mirror, because when he hit the brakes, the Ferrari was in line with him.
Yeah, that's one of those passes where I'm coming through, or there's going to be a lot of debris. And Perez getting wide of the apex, so it'll give Verstappen a chance to get a run on him.
I think the run is going to turn into a slam dunk pass. We haven't had many of them so far today. Are we about to resume the battle between Leclerc and Verstappen? The 3 race leaders in your picture at the moment, but is it a change of position between the 2 Red Bulls as we go over the bumps? And it's Max Verstappen who takes 2nd place in the race and will try and reclaim the lead. Pass, repass, and pass again. Delirious stuff out front. It's Charles Leclerc going, right, who is it in the mirrors? It's the world champion. Game on at the front.
What's that little theme song on Instagram or one of the socials where they go, oh no, oh no, oh no, 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 no. That's the thing, what I'd be thinking about was Charles Leclerc.
Well, they will be relishing making the pass and staying there Sergio Perez, couple of laps that haven't gone for his way.
Let's work together here. We can get it.
Yeah, I just wonder on Checo whether he's just taken too much out of those tyres when he fought his way. You know, if we remember, just remind ourselves, Charles Leclerc struggled to get the tyre switched on after the safety car, and it looked like Perez was on rails, and now Perez is dropping away, and Charles really seems to have found form, but he's got a wounded Verstappen behind him, missing his front wing end plate.
Doesn't seem to be affecting him too much. Fastest lap of the race last time around. And he does have a tire advantage. His tires are about 5 laps newer than Leclerc's, but man, that Ferrari does not seem to have the advantage on the hards.
Stay with him. Double toe here. We work together.
That's Hugh Bird trying to keep Sergio Perez's head up, but there's a real opportunity now for Max Verstappen, and Charles Leclerc knows it. Driving on the mirrors now, checking the left one, checking the right one, trying to keep the world champion behind. We go down the strip. We're going to get another change of lead. Max Verstappen takes the place back, but look at how brave on the brakes Charles was, but he couldn't close the door. Verstappen takes the lead back once again, and this has turned out to be some spectacle under the lights, but it's the dominant man in 2023 who gets past his teammate, gets past the man who beat him in qualifying yesterday, and the 3-car battle now led by Max Verstappen.
Well, what a race. That was incredible, actually. The momentum that Max took past Charles, and then Charles on the brakes was so much later.
Well, we saw him do it on Checo when he was going for the attack, going for the pass. He did it on Max with the defensive move, and then Max just said, realized he hit the pedal a little bit too early again, just rolled off it in that middle phase of the break to close that gap. He only has to be side by side into the corner. It doesn't have to be ahead. Just great stuff from both drivers. So much commitment.
Going further back in the pack. This is Carlos Sainz trying to get past George Russell. Russell going defensive into a corner that he really wouldn't want to there as he goes through 7, 8 and 9 in quick succession. Russell, who was ahead of Max Verstappen, but was the driver given that 5-second penalty for causing a collision. Be interesting to see what he makes of that. Verstappen now back exactly in the same place he was in a few laps ago. Can he stay within DRS? And remember what we saw at the end of the medium tyre stint. The Red Bulls getting through their rubber faster in these conditions. Can Leclerc put that pressure on again? It's not done yet, not by a long way. On lap 38 of 50, that's what it looks like if you're doing 215 miles per hour on the strip in Las Vegas, as we see. Still ahead at the moment, Alex Albon trying to score points once again. If he stays there, it's the best Grand Prix point scoring finish performance by a Williams driver since 2017. Such has been the superb consistency of the Thai driver, really leading that team with prowess. But man, there are some fast drivers behind him at the moment. Some have had difficult days, some have been incredibly motivated, and Albon is going to have to do what we've seen so many times and try and produce another defensive drive. But it's hard when you've got 2 DRS zones like this. And now George Russell trying to sweep around the outside. Inside line for the Williams driver. That's George Russell's old team, remember. And Alex Albon has taken up the mantle of being the underdog. He's still ahead for the moment.
It's such a tough car to pass the Williams, especially in a Mercedes, which is a little bit down on straight line speed. So even with that DRS open, that DRS advantage, that Williams so quick in a straight line. And now Russell under big pressure from Carlos Sainz.
It's going to get to a situation where it's pass or repass. We have seen Grand Prix earlier in the year where the straight line performance of the Williams was mighty. If you think back to Spa, it just didn't work for them. Although they've got that aerodynamic efficiency, they still have to get the setup right, and it's hard to gauge at a new circuit. They've given Alex Albon a chance. This race completely changed by the full safety car. After we've seen debris, we've seen great passing and repassing, and here's another one. There's a big opportunity now for George Russell, who appears in your picture ahead of the Williams. Nothing Alex Albon could do, and that is a good pass as we move our way through there. Was very nearly another one further back. Max Verstappen has set the fastest lap of the Grand Prix, but Charles Leclerc is not letting him off. He's just done a personal best.
Just going to have to work hard to break this toe, Max.
Yeah, that's absolutely the crucial thing. Right now, Leclerc is getting the advantage of DRS, and that's keeping him right there and keeping Verstappen under pressure. But we do know the Ferrari doesn't like running in dirty air in terms of its temperatures. So just how long can Leclerc keep that pressure on?
Leclerc would desperately love to make that pass. Can he sit there for the remaining laps? And that's a wide moment for the Williams driver. And disappointment for Alex Albon, who sees first Russell, then Sainz, then Alonso overtake him, and he drops out of the points. Lewis Hamilton trying to get by as well, and diving to the inside. They got a yellow flag in sector 2. We were hearing momentarily that Pierre Gasly's reporting a issue with the battery to his team. Here's Russell on the radio.
Up and down, George.
Yeah, it's so tough in the position Alex Albon was just in. Once you go wide like that, especially on a dirty street circuit, you pick up all that dust and dirt on your tires, you lose grip for a few corners there. It just puts you out of the rhythm, and he just dropped a few spots all in a row there. It's so hard. It takes a few corners to get that tire cleared up and get the confidence back for the driver, especially on a street circuit where there is no margin for error.
So 1 second separates Leclerc and Verstappen, so he's just outside DRS zone. And then we've got Perez, who's worked himself back into a position to pick up the DRS.
So these were the crucial laps for Charles Leclerc when he was battling up against Sergio Perez, and he was able to reclaim that DRS and then just send one to the inside. And there's not really an opportunity to close the door in 14 if you're thinking that you've got a chance to race on to the finish. You are risking an accident if you do that. But then, in sharp contrast, you heard Piero Lambiase on the radio saying you're going to have to work hard to break the toe, and that's what Verstappen has done. Pushed like he hasn't been pushed in a straight fight all year long. Singapore was a massive outlier, but since Sergio Perez beat him in a straight fight in Baku, in a great battle that went all the way to the end, where they were separated by hardly any margin at all, Verstappen has always done what he's needed to at the vital moment of the Grand Prix. This time, he seems to have done that again, but after Perez took the lead, Leclerc took the lead, and Ferrari must be wondering what might have been the timing of the safety car working against them. And now Charles Leclerc is looking to try and hang on to second place, all with the hope that the Red Bull tyres do not hang on in the way that we would expect.
Just make sure you protect that front right tyre, Max.
So the front right being told to protect. Yes, they're fresher tyres for the Red Bull, but those tyres really fell away much earlier than the Ferraris earlier on. I can tell you further back as well, we haven't seen it, but Stroll has got past Pierre Gasly, who radioed for that message to say he's got an issue with the battery, and is this the defining moment of the Grand Prix? Max Verstappen, Charles Leclerc at that point, you think, oh, he's super late on the brakes, he's going to keep the place. Verstappen gets to the apex first, taking the lead. This is what it looked like from Sergio Perez's position as Verstappen took P1.
Yeah, you're always hoping that when two guys in front of you are battling that they get a bit too up close and personal, but in the end it was clean. And that's also a clean pass from Lance Stroll. Gasly not able to do anything against the offset in speed. Checo Perez still trying to get himself just a bit closer. He's got DRS, but it's all coming a bit late.
Okay, this is Sergio Perez with another opportunity.
Good,
there is the race leader.
good.
Breaking clear now. A lead of 2 seconds.
Second gear, turn 5.
Had that 5-second penalty earlier on. Then the safety car came out afterwards. Just to remind you that with just running 2 hard compounds in the Grand Prix so far, the rule book says that Oscar Piastri has that opportunity though with the fresher tyres, and the difference on the hard, well, seems to be a totally different compound for the Ferrari. I know those tyres are older, but even so, just to remind you that with just running 2 hard compounds in the Grand Prix so far, the rulebook says that Oscar Piastri still has to stop in this Grand Prix.
Yeah, it's a smart move from Leclerc, just leaving him out there, letting the field spread out, trying to get that gap as big as possible. It's about a 21-second loss for a pit stop here. That would right now bring him out just outside the points somewhere right around that battle for the final points paying position. So if over the next few laps he can open up another couple seconds, give his team a little bit of breathing room, he could still get some points on the board, which from where they started and how their weekend's gone, I think would be a very, very welcome result for the McLaren team.
So Alonso and Hamilton battling on the left-hand side of your picture, and then we're understandably focusing on the battle for second place at the moment, but Gasly has George Russell right behind him. Off the road goes Charles Leclerc at turn 12, and having led this Grand Prix for so long and having had his best chance to win so far this season, one Red Bull got by, then the other Red Bull got by, and there'll be no chance after that moment at turn 12 to retake the place this time.
Well, I hope that the lockup wasn't sufficient to cause a flat spot, because that would be a major issue given the length of the straights and the high-speed nature. So on board, oh, just not enough front axle grip there, and he's been brave on the brakes, but on this occasion just a bit wide on turn-in.
That combined entry once again just catches you out, and when you're in that position, you know, Charles looking into his mirrors as much as he is out the front of his car. He's trying to determine where Checo's a little bit faster than he is, where maybe he's pulling out a bit of an advantage, and sometimes it just takes that momentary lapse in conversation. And when I mean momentary, I mean fractions of a second too late on the brakes as Piastri finally coming in to get that tire change done, and he'll have now a nice fresh set to try to carve through a few cars in these final laps.
So they left him out there in the hope of a virtual safety car or full safety car driven by Bert Mailander, but it didn't appear. And Piastri, that was a 1.9 second stop, by the way. That is absolutely rapid. We've only seen one faster than that all season long, and that was from McLaren as well. What a turnaround they've had. And Albon battling Piastri. Piastri's going to try and fight his way back into the points. Piastri earlier on starting from down in 18th position. The timing of the safety car absolutely crucial. Here's George Russell on the radio.
George, we are still playing P4.
Toto Wolff, there was a time where you never heard him on the radio, but trying to motivate his driver, saying there's still an opportunity. Russell 2 seconds away from Stroll, and Esteban Ocon will be buoyant if he's able to claim that place by the end. Here's the other Alpine though, coming under pressure. Man, that is quick down the straight as they build up to 200 miles an hour plus under braking, and Fernando Alonso moves up to 8th position, gets past Pierre Gasly, but he went deep DC.
Yeah, he did. Luckily, in that particular sequence of corners, there's enough racetrack for him to get away with it, and wheel-to-wheel action here.
This is so quick through 17. That is unbelievably brave. We've been waiting to see two drivers go wheel-to-wheel through there. It was around the outside earlier on for Lewis Hamilton. Down the inside this time. Huge speed, huge commitment, and 9th place.
This is Grand Prix of the season.
Easily. That's such a difficult place as a driver where Pierre Gasly was. He had a little bit of an advantage in terms of car placement front to back on Lewis Hamilton, but through this flat-out turn 17, you've never been wide. You have no idea what the grip level is. How brave do you want to be? Because if it goes wrong in that corner, it's going to go real wrong. And you heard Hamilton have to lift off the throttle a little bit. He was pedaling through there, both drivers doing what they could, but man, a lot of side-by-side action so far tonight.
Well, what a Grand Prix this has been. We are sending DC to go and interview the winners. It is James Hinchcliffe and I'm Alex Jakes talking you through the final laps of the Las Vegas Grand Prix, the first one held here since 1982. And with all due respect to the car park at Caesars Palace, they never put on anything like this. It has been overtake after overtake after overtake. 5 to go, Charles Leclerc 0.6 of a second away from Sergio Perez. And our two former race leaders might not have the measure of Verstappen today, but they're going to put on a late battle for the second step on the podium.
It's been such a back and forth flow. There just seems to be one lap to the next, at least one 4-lap stint to the next. The advantage keeps bouncing back and forth between the Ferrari and the Red Bull as Lewis Hamilton now looking, trying to get by Fernando Alonso. A few more points on the board if he can get it done over the next few laps.
Sergio Perez is going to seal the runners-up spot in the Drivers' World Championship as long as he doesn't collide here and Hamilton's able to improve, but Hamilton had to outscore him by 6 points today. That won't happen. It means for the first time in Red Bull history, they will be 1 and 2 in the Drivers' Championship. It means as well they are Constructors' Champions of the world, their first ever clean sweep for the team that came to life back in 2005.
Yeah, to do it with a 1-2 finish in the Grand Prix as well would just be such a result here in the very first Grand Prix in Las Vegas. It's gonna be a celebration tonight if it finishes as they run for the Red Bull squad. Everything's been thrown at Max Verstappen today: penalties, near contact, actual contact, damage. But he's pulled it off, as he does. He just finds a way to win. That is what's so impressive about Max Verstappen.
Piastri on the medium tyre, unable to put the pressure on Pierre Gasly for the final point at the moment. Further up, though, this is the battle for 8th place, and this is Lewis Hamilton up against his old sparring partner, Fernando Alonso, and that move is made early on. No contest into turn 14. Hamilton up to 8th place, and then it's Sainz, Russell, and Stroll. I think we're going to get a battle between Stroll and Russell for 5th place in a few moments' time, because Russell's right on the cusp of DRS there. This is the battle for 2nd place in the Grand Prix. We have a yellow flag out in the 3rd sector of the racetrack. Just looking to see whether we can see why. That is why. And off the road goes Hülkenberg, and he's pulled far enough clear. Wondered whether we were going to get a late safety car, but that is superb driving from Hülkenberg to just find a position off the road. His Grand Prix comes to an end at the escape road of turn 14. We're on board with Charles Leclerc, whose run of not converting a pole position is going to continue, but he will take a lot of heart from that opening stint. Then the timing of the safety car, and then when he got back past Sergio Perez, you thought, wow, game on now. But Max Verstappen's had an answer to both of them once again, Hinch.
He has. Again, you can't phase him. You know, he had near contact in the first corner, contact with George Russell later, the penalty. It's just every single time a roadblock is put in front of them, they just find a way around it. Made passes on track, some great racecraft. And these two, though, Checo and Charles, still going at it. This final step on the podium is not decided. The second step on the podium is not certain yet. You see that graphic for your overtake award. Good luck. Good luck picking one to vote for in the plethora of incredible passes we have seen on track tonight around the streets of Las Vegas.
Oh, it has been beyond Formula One's wildest dreams to put on a Grand Prix like this. So much hype, so much conversation, so many marketing events, an opening ceremony before we got going. But the most important thing by far is what we see when the Grand Prix begins, when the 5 red lights go out, and what we've seen today has been truly special stuff. Sergio Perez looking to return to the podium here. Second closest margin in Formula One history he missed out by. There's a slipstreaming race in Monza years ago, which was closer. Bruce McLaren missed out. 1969. That was a Grand Prix where you were passing and repassing again. And then it was Sergio Perez last time out in Sao Paulo, missing out by half a tenth of a second up against Fernando Alonso. And we thought that was good. Well, plenty of overtaking today. Yellow flag is out in Sector 3 once again. And it's Yuki Tsunoda who is going slowly and finding the exit to park up near Hülkenberg. He'd reported a problem with the gearbox.
And we see Russell now on the small box, making a pass attempt.
Is he going to get it done? Is he going to get it done to turn 14? Can Stroll fight back? We're on board with George Russell, who now has 5th position, so he gets that move complete. As we go on to the penultimate lap of the Las Vegas Grand Prix, 2nd place still in the balance, and George Russell will be going all in now, trying to put the pressure on Esteban Ocon. He's got about 6 miles to do so as he tries to fight his way by. Looks like a good first sector for Charles Leclerc, who is surely going to go all in here.
It's going to be a big ask. It's a tall order, but we've seen some last lap heroics very recently in Formula One. Just thinking back to Brazil with Checo and Fernando. Checo's going to be thinking about that. He just missed out a few weeks ago. He's not going to want a repeat of a last lap lapse in judgment. Bad car placement into turn one there is kind of what gave Fernando that opportunity. He's got to be picture perfect here because Leclerc is right on his gearbox. This is such a difficult position as a driver. There was a little bit of pain, I think. I think Leclerc got all the way up to the wall and just clipped it coming out of turn 12, trying so hard to catch the Red Bull.
Beaver's got the flag as Leclerc got the move. As he heads down, DRS open. This is going to give us a real indication, perhaps not for this lap, but maybe for the last one, which we're heading to. That's close. I think he'll be encouraged by that. He's going to have to throw it all in.
If we could keep the gap to Checo behind at 2.5 seconds, maybe help to turn along, might be useful.
The gap is now 3.4 seconds, so make of that what you will. We're on to the final lap in Las Vegas. Max Verstappen on his way to 18 Grand Prix wins in the season. Charles Leclerc trying to chase Checo home and pass him on the last tour.
Way wide in turn one from Leclerc. He just doing everything he can to try to catch that Red Bull, but overshot it, gave Checo a little bit of breathing room for that DRS zone down into turn 5. Advantage, I think, to Checo,
who did his personal best first sector of the entire Grand Prix, and now it needs a lockup. The checkered flag is illuminated around the last lap. It is waiting on the main straight, and there you go. He has dropped back. He has dropped back to play the team game there. Max Verstappen, 2.1 seconds, asked by the team to do that. He plays the game, and he tries to give him a slipstream, and you would get an effect from 2 seconds of the slipstream. Leclerc, does he risk it all in the final meters of the Grand Prix?
This is where it matters. Such an important exit out of turn 12 for Checo. He seems to have gotten the power down nicely, get a little bit of draft from his teammate. Is Leclerc going to be close enough? DRS open. Here we go.
This is the last real corner on the racetrack. It's flat to the floor by the time that you get out of 14, 15 and 16. Charles Leclerc's going for it to the inside as he got the car slowed down. What a move, Charles Leclerc, absolutely brilliant at the last real chance that he had to make the pass. Checo tries to fight back. What a performance from the top three. Max Verstappen puts his name up in lights once again, and it's very close to the line, but it's Charles Leclerc who takes second place with a bold and brilliant move at the last real opportunity. On the last lap, it's 18 Grand Prix victories for the season for Max Verstappen, who wins the Las Vegas Grand Prix. Then it's Charles Leclerc, then it's Sergio Perez, and on the last lap as well, George Russell gets 4th place. He got by Esteban Ocon. That's entertainment on the streets of Las Vegas. But Russell, having made the pass, has the 5-second penalty applied, and it was for pride rather than position. Stroll in 5th, Ocon in 4th, Sainz 6th, then Hamilton, Russell, Alonso and Piastri. Your order after a breathless, delirious, thoroughly entertaining Las Vegas Grand Prix.
I think that's 3 out of 3 here in the stage, Max. Should we call it a royal flush?
Well done, Max. As GP says, 3 out of 3. Well done. First ever Vegas race.
Yes, let's go, guys. That was quite fun out there. At least I had fun. Made it a bit more difficult for us, but it was good. I'm sorry I tried everything I could there on the last lap to give him a toe.
Oh, it was good, Max.
Yeah, well done, mate. You did your best to give him help him out there. Well done.
Sergio Perez denied the position he wanted in Sao Paulo by half a tenth, denied by just over a tenth.
At least the second place, at least the second place. Ah! I wanted that win so bad. But what a race, honestly, there's nothing left. Oh my God.
You did a fantastic job, and you did manage really well.
Yeah, but good job, Charles, good job.
Yeah, I know he's frustrated to not get that win once again after starting on pole, but what a phenomenal effort. Driver of the day, breaking the hold. McLaren's had on that for a few races now. Still, like I said, a lot to be proud of. Managed that race well, did everything he could. What an absolute beast on the brakes. And poor Checo, second Grand Prix in a row, losing a position on the last lap.
Well, that's tough stuff. But it did seem, the lap before, he got very close under braking. I think that gave him the confidence to make the pass. Here's the race winner.
Viva Las Vegas! Viva Las Vegas!
I thought you'd enjoy that, mate. Well done.
That's the sound of a man changing his tune.
I was just going to say, he seems to have a slightly different opinion of the place than he did about 2 hours ago. But let's take another look at this on board from so far back. Once again, he didn't pull out of the draft of that Red Bull until they were already on the brakes. So when you're in Checo's position, you take a quick look to your left-hand side mirror right before you hit the brake pedal to see if the car is pulled out, how far back there. You try to make that judgment call, but after he hits the brakes, that's when Leclerc pulls out, and that's when he gets it done. Here's George Russell on the Alpine of Esteban Ocon. Esteban knowing there's a penalty coming for the Mercedes man, not worth putting up too much of a fight, but George still doing a great job to get that position on track.
Into the pit lane, please, Max. Or should I call you Elvis?
No, don't do that.
I mean, he's got the suit. The suit comes with the belt buckle, and there's going to be some fun post-race activities here in Vegas. They've done everything a little bit over the top, and I think podium celebration and everything after will be just in line with that, won't it?
What a spectacle. Thank you very much to the top three. Certainly all shook up after that. I'll stop. But it has been an absolutely shoddy start. No escaping that in practice. A sensational finish. Max Verstappen, well, I'm not sure he rated the racetrack much before the 5 red lights went out, but he had to work so hard to claim one of his sweetest Grand Prix victories of the season. And dressed in the Elvis suit, he has put it all together, brilliantly so. Charles Leclerc did his personal best of the Grand Prix on the last lap as well, and we just had entertainment all the way through there. I think we expected it to be a really interesting street circuit, but not on that level. In the end, the top three separated by 2.2 seconds. Verstappen did slow down by about 2 seconds on the last lap, but they all led the Grand Prix at some point. They all put it together and looked, at one stage, it looked for all the world like it was going to be Leclerc's day by quite a margin. Then it looked like the timing of the safety car had swung it towards Perez, and we got suckered in, Hinch. Of course Max was going to win.
Of course. I don't want to say it was a foregone conclusion, but there's just nothing that he can't overcome. Oscar Piastri getting up into 10th and taking the fastest lap, so the bonus point counts there for the McLaren man. Got to be happy with that after where he started and the issues he had on the day. But again, Verstappen just absolutely clinical in what he did. And a win like that, Alex, it does mean more to the driver. It does feel better when you had to work that hard for it. First it was the penalty, then the contact, making those passes on track, rather than starting from pole and winning by 30 seconds. That's fun, don't get me wrong. But when you really have to fight for it, that's racing. That's what these guys want to do. They want to race each other. And even though he finished second, was disappointed to lose the win, you heard him say, that was a great race, Charles Leclerc on the radio. And there are the 3 podium finishers for the inaugural Las Vegas Grand Prix.
2 Elvises and a Charles Leclerc putting on a show under the bright lights.
You see the stretch limos there, ready to take the podium finishing drivers to the back straight in front of the Bellagio fountain. That's coming up a little later, so make sure you stick around for that.
Yeah, we are sending them back along the track where there's plenty waiting. And, wow, that is something to behold. Stories up and down the order. Oscar Piastri got the bonus point for fastest lap. Fernando Alonso, great battling all the way through. George Russell with that 5-second penalty. Dropped down after a great pass for 4th on the road. Lewis Hamilton battling to 5th. And then Carlos Sainz recovering well, considering he was facing the wrong way at turn 1 on lap 1. Lance Stroll, they did brilliantly at Aston Martin. I want to underline this, to get him off the soft tyre under that virtual safety car. That gave him the opportunity to take advantage of another safety car when he did, and that's a strong 5th place in back-to-back races for him.
Yeah, great execution.
drove into, yeah, he just drove into me.
You didn't lose any from that?
Yeah. But when the safety car was there, we didn't want to change the whole front wing, you know, I would lose a lot of time.
Did you both stop on the safety car?
Well, yeah, I stopped again, yeah. So my times were like 5 laps longer than it was.
Yeah. You were generally a bit more quick on hard than
or the medium front.
You grained on the medium?
Yeah, completely.
You didn't. We were really good on mediums.
You had a lot of rotation. I just lost the front.
I lost my front wing in at the start.
There was no
mess,
grip,
and then I think both just broke and I went on the hip. I didn't even realize.